This podcast is produced by OnPod, a video content studio near you.
Everybody, this is George K. with the OnPod Spotlight series on experts. And we got a great guest for you today. It's JP Trimarchi with Trimark Solutions. He's going to give us the lowdown on automation and how you can put that to use in your business. JP, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, George. Pleasure.
All right, so let's start by giving the folks an idea of who you are and how you started this business.
Yeah, definitely. So it's been a journey to get here. Where I started was I actually started in a professional sales course that I took back in early 2000s. And I thought I was going to go into construction. And when I went to the construction school, turns out I missed the entrance exam. So on the way home from that exam, I was kicking myself in the back of my butt. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? And I saw a guy who I went to school with, and he told me about this amazing program called professional sales. And I went to the teachers. It was great. I did that program. And then after that, I started my career in technology sales at a distributor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
here in Montreal?
Yeah, here in Montreal. It was an American-based company. And, we sold all different types of technology products to resellers.
Okay.
So people that are within the technology business, helping small to medium-sized businesses, primarily helping them with their technology needs, right? So getting them their computers, all the software they need to run their businesses.
Sounds like a good boot camp.
It was a good boot camp because you build a really good network when you get to meet all the different vendors and you see how the industry works from a very high level perspective, and you get to make a lot of different connections. And from there, I got the opportunity to go work in direct sales with a technology vendor called Aruba Networks. And they sold wireless LAN products. And that was my first experience selling directly to end consumers versus resellers and consultants that were reselling products for their customers.
That must have been a big switch.
It was a big switch. I remember the first interview I had. The gentleman who was interviewing me, he told me about the job, and he told me, I need somebody who could make 50 to 100 calls a day from their house and be able to book meetings. And I said, you sounds like you need someone who has a lot of, let's just call it a lot of courage, but maybe that's a little bit crazy too, because it's a bit of a lonely job and you face rejection all day long. And I knew it. And I told the guy, I'm your guy. I can do it for you.
Just bring it on. Bring on the rejection.
Yeah, bring on the rejection, right?
You might want to pull your seat up a little bit so that people can hear you well. Okay, so how did you make the jump from working for other folks? Because it sounds like you
as an employee.
You were doing some really good work, with other corporations, got some great training.
Yeah.
What made you decide to put your hat in the entrepreneurial ring?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. So what I would say is I've used CRMs and these types of technology sales tools for all of my career as a seller in the technology space. And what I realized was that in many, many companies, these technologies and these tools are not implemented for the benefit of the seller. Oftentimes they were benefited for the benefit of the management to be able to have visibility into what's going on to make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, for the individual seller, it was taking them away from having meaningful connections and conversations with clients because of all the administrative burden that was placed upon them to give the management what they wanted.
Boy, I remember those days. You spent more time filling out the CRM than you actually spent with the client.
Exactly. And there's an interesting statistic that says about most B2B sellers today spend only 30% of their time on average with clients. So that means 70% of the salaries being paid to these folks is often just to keep the administrative burden going and making sure that everything is working the way they want to for the management function, right? But
that is a catch-22, isn't it?
It definitely is, because you need the data to be able to make good decisions, but at the same time, it's taking them away from the most value time, which is spending time with clients, building relationships, problem solving. So because I lived this problem firsthand, because I saw how poorly implemented a lot of these technologies were in companies, I decided to do something about it. And that's when I started my company. So, we help implement these sellers. So the difference is like, I'm not a technology guy that's implementing technology the way the vendor tells me, because I've done the job.
Yeah, you've been in the trenches. You know the problems that salespeople face in the field.
Exactly. So what I do is I try to help those systems and I try to design them in a more human way so that we could solve the problem of, how making salespeople spend more time with clients that have a high likelihood of purchasing and buying versus spending more of their time doing, filling out reports or filling out the CRM or spending an hour writing emails or spending 2 hours doing research on an account, right? It's like, how do we help streamline that so we can help them spend more time with clients and more time selling? And that's where my practice focuses on primarily.
Do you believe that, you look at the average Canadian or even North American business? When I say most, like 89% of businesses, I think it's actually higher than that, are sub $20 million gross sales. The vast majority of businesses. And you look at this data that they are collecting, my gut tells me like most of it is not used. Like most of it is meaningless to them. They don't even know how to query it to get any value out of it. Would you say that that's true? Like, how would you respond if someone, accused, the CRM industry of well, it's not the industry. I guess it's how people use it, right?
It's how people use the technology, George. Exactly that. And what I found is that for the most part of my career, I actually did some, thinking about my whole career. And I realized one thing. I said, most of the time I'll come into companies and the main problem they have is that there's way too many tools everywhere. Data is all over the place. And people have 30 tabs open on their browser. And it's, the solution often is, well, hey, what if we could just work out of one place? All of our information was in one place. We could trust our data and we could make people more productive because they don't have to always context switch, meaning I'm going from my CRM to another tool, trying to figure out how that works. They probably don't even talk to each other. I'm having to do all this manual data entry. It could be a lot more.
Repeating the data entry. Oh, that's a real pet peeve for most people.
Repeating the data entry is one of the killers of productivity. So, how do we look at the human doing the work and design a better way of working by simplifying, by, consolidating as much as we can the work that they do within maybe one, potentially two technologies that they use on a daily basis, and then put that data to use so that they can leverage that data to have more meaningful conversations with their clients and be able to, have more qualified meetings being generated for them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
How do I research these folks in a more streamlined way so that when I get on a meeting with these people, I already have a good understanding of their business, who might they be selling to, what kind of business model do they have, and how can I bring some ideas to bring value versus asking 20 same qualification questions I ask everybody, regardless of who they are and what they do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And people hate that. As an owner, when I'm dealing with a vendor that isn't sophisticated and they put me through that grinder of questions, it's like you don't need to know my whole backstory. You just need to understand what I need right now and how you can help me right now. So I get that. Now, okay, so give me an example of a typical engagement with you. Like, so who talk to me about, so I'm a business owner and I have this type of a problem that you can solve. Who is that person?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. So primarily I work with either earlier stage tech companies, but more often on these days, what I'm actually working more with is, manufacturers, professional services companies, construction companies, people that want to bring a more sophisticated sales methodology and a repeatable process to acquiring clients for their business. And they need some help structuring that, right? Because maybe in the past, they've hired, several salespeople that were maybe experts in their industry. But if you're bringing in somebody that's newer, it's not very often they have a program or a way to enable newer people that aren't industry familiar to be productive as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and who wants your sales guy to be running the sales system? What happens if that sales guy leaves? Now, what you got to do? You got to start a whole new sales system when the next guy comes in? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense. And it actually costs companies a lot of money. What a lot of companies don't realize is that when they hire salespeople and those salespeople are not productive or they don't retain them over time, there's a huge cost of the business being killing profits, which is through attrition.
Yeah.
Right. So I bring a salesperson on, after 6 months, they leave because they're not making any sales. Well, you paid that 6 months of salary and you invested time and energy into that person.
And that person might have been burning good leads because they weren't doing a good job
on top of it. So there's a huge cost of the business that a lot of business owners don't often realize when it comes to having not having a sales system in place that makes it easier to bring people into a system that actually allows them to be productive quickly, right? And I use obviously technology and process and training to help bring all that together to create a more cohesive solution.
I would imagine a lot of small and mid-sized businesses, I would imagine they have the approach that all that stuff is for the bigger guys. All all that technology, that's for the bigger guys. We've got our Excel spreadsheets, and when I want to know what's going on with an account, I'll just call Bob, and say, "Hey, Bob, what's going on with Dave? Is Dave's account? Like, are we going to close that guy?" Like, when you're dealing with that, how do you help them to understand that no, even if you're not, Microsoft, these types of tools, will work for you. Like in terms of the return on investment, it's worth it for you.
Yeah, that's a great question, George. So one of the things I would say is because of the rise of say AI and other types of factors, the cost of these products, of these softwares, have gone down dramatically. So even someone who's a solopreneur can take advantage of these sophisticated technologies to, do better research on their accounts, to be able to record their conversations and get transcripts so that they can get insights that they might have missed within the meetings with their customers, right? Being able to automate some of that data entry by having those transcripts go and automatically update your CRM notes.
No more typing?
No more. That's what we're trying to get towards, right? Because a lot of the typing is what's keep people away from selling.
Oh, yeah.
So, if we're able to, eliminate a lot of those friction points from the seller's day, not only could they spend more time with clients, but they should also increase their conversion rates, because the quality of those conversations will be of a lot higher quality and caliber, right? So for the management, a lot of times it's always been about visibility into what's going on, what's working, how can I use data to make better decisions. That's still going on, but I think what's transformed, George, is that before we would ignore CRM systems, traditionally would ignore the seller in favor of the management. But now with these newer platforms that are coming out that combine sales engagement technologies and CRMs, we're able to bridge that gap so that the sellers can get something that improves their productivity, and the management gets even more visibility into what's going on and what's working so that they can make better decisions and coach those reps into KPIs a lot faster so that they can catch maybe the errors that they're making when having conversations with potential customers.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think teaching people, especially smaller businesses, teaching them the tool, how to use the tool, how to ask the tool the right question to be able to get answers that you can actually use, that you can monetize right away. And I think the training thing is a great example. We know that the workforce is transitioning. We know that younger and younger people are entering the workforce as the baby boomers are exiting. And we know that the way those people interact with technology is very different than the way the boomers interacted with technology. And yes, the boomer might have had an amazing, great system to be productive and to close deals and to keep track of their clients and all the rest of it. But they typically are not repeatable. They typically don't have those systems written down or encoded, or they don't have SOPs in place.
Knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. Bingo, tribal knowledge. And then so when they leave, there's this huge gap of knowledge. So having a system implemented by an expert like you allows the company to hire less experienced people, but get them productive much faster.
Correct. It's all about that. I remember when I was working for some of the most sophisticated enterprise software sales organizations, the leadership would always talk about, recruit, retain, and it was a recruit, ramp, and retain. Okay. Right. Yep. So make sure we could recruit, have a very solid profile of the type of person that we want to bring into our business that fits the way we operate, number one. And that's a culture fit for our business. And the second thing is having an enablement program to ramp those sellers quickly into KPIs by giving them the information they need to understand their buyers, understand their process, understand their products and services and how they help those buyers, so that, and combine that with effective coaching and a structure so that they can start to make sales as quickly as possible and get confidence, more importantly, because success breeds more success. So if you can get them productive as quickly as possible, it's to everybody's benefit, right?
Yeah.
And then the third is the retention element, right? Is making sure that, we can, avoid the attrition problem by making them productive, giving them a system that's working, and having more transparency between management and the individual sellers on the ground floor doing the work.
Yeah, as a professional coach, we know the statistics tell us that the younger employees, certainly younger salespeople for sure, they like a lot of feedback.
Correct.
They want a lot of feedback. They want a lot of coaching. And that could be a pain in the butt for some management.
Sure.
So having a system that can deliver that feedback, I would imagine, helps to fill that gap. I mean, it doesn't excuse a leader from being engaged with their people and keeping engaged with them and having that back and forth with them and having that one-to-one coaching, but it certainly helps to fill in, the gaps.
Yeah.
Now, what do you say to people? And I know this is you probably get this all the time. It's like, ChatGPT is here. I'll just ask ChatGPT, how do I sell this client, or give me a pitch for this client, or blah blah blah. Do a proposal for this client. When you talk to people who just think that they could use that versus having a CRM system in place, how do you help them understand the pros and cons of that situation?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, when we think about the way salespeople typically work, there's a lot of things that they do on a daily basis to get their job done and to hit their quotas, right? Some of it is doing some research. Some of it is creating messages. Some of it's doing prospecting work. Some of it's deal management. And what I would say is that, ChatGPT is a fantastic technology, but when it's used in a vacuum, it's creating more of the same problem, which is context switching. And more often than not, ChatGPT doesn't probably understand the uniqueness of your business. It doesn't have context into your individual buyers, their problems, their pains, your value propositions, your products, your services. So every single time you're using a ChatGPT, you're having to give that information ad hoc, and it might not even be in the best possible way for it to give you the best outputs, right? But when you use these sales engagement platforms / CRMs, what you're able to do is to feed that context into a function specific software that can empower the outputs of those prompts to make sure that they're giving what you need on a more repeatable basis. But more importantly, it's not just the message creation, it's also making sure that we can get all these data points from all the conversations that we're having, whether they're over the phone, email, video calls, whichever medium we use, and we're leveraging that data to further improve the way we engage with people and our prospects and our clients, but also to inform our products and services.
Yeah.
There's a wealth of value within those customer conversations about their problems that often doesn't make it to the product teams, right? In a software business, or people designing delivery and services for professional services based companies. And if we're able to consolidate a lot of that data in a platform where we can use that data to be able to improve our competitive position, it's not only better for clients, but it's also, we're using that data to train people internally, right?
Yeah. And I think there's also even if you deal with the security issues, which there are many, even if you put that aside, I find it's always better to have a purpose tool for doing purpose work.
Correct.
And the other thing is that the better CRMs allow collaboration. So usually when you're selling, you're not selling in a vacuum. You have some kind of a service team that has to deliver the service, whether it's software or hardware or construction services or whatever. Usually there's some kind of a service team that needs to interact with the salesperson, with the customer, all that stuff. And I think having that platform where everyone can interact together with the data and use it easily, I think that's the key to leveraging the value of a CRM system.
Correct. Single source of truth, right?
Yeah.
It's like having a single place so you don't have to have data everywhere, files everywhere, all this, important information in an email that only one person has access to. It's being able to centralize information, and oftentimes it doesn't even matter what area of a business you're looking at, being able to centralize information and being able to make that information more accessible to people in context is often what allows for the fastest productivity gains. It doesn't matter if you're in sales. It doesn't matter whether you're in project delivery. It doesn't matter whether even you're in accounting, right? It's like all of these functions would be better served by centralizing information in a way that enables better collaboration and avoids a lot of those problems that happen in every single company I talk to when you can't find information, you don't know what's where, you don't know who has access to what system that's able to do certain functions.
How many of us are working with teams that are scattered all over the world now?
Exactly.
Right. So you don't want to have to call a colleague at 3:00 in the morning, their time, to ask them a question about a client or whatever. If it's all in the CRM, it's all in the CRM.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah, I love it.
And like I would even go beyond. It's like it's not just CRMs. It's often like what I call these is like more sales engagement platforms, right? Where it's bringing together like what we used to think about CRMs, which is centralizing a lot of this information, deal management and lead management, but it's also like a lot of the stuff that we need to be able to get access to the data we need to find people's emails that are within our target markets, right? Keeping
that information updated.
Yeah, that's a big task, and making sure our data that we have is the most up-to-date information, and not having to put that burden on the salespeople all the time, right? That's where automation comes into play to help. But also, I would say it's like I think the gain oftentimes is having every single interaction being recorded and transcribed and collected as data points to be able to eliminate a lot of the manual data entry and the follow-ups and the context switching that happens when people are missing certain information. If all that's centralized, I could just ask an AI within a HubSpot, like, hey, give me the lowdown on what's going on with this client, and it will have access to all that wealth of information and be able to give you the real truth, not just the salesperson's version of the truth, but the real truth of what actually happened in the transcribed in that conversation, which is like, that's a leap onto its own, right? Being able to have access to that wealth of information that comes directly from the client's mouth.
Yeah. And I hope everyone understands that it's not about, Big Brother watching. No. It's really about empowering the salesperson to be free to focus on what he's doing now and be able to do quick research to be as effective as possible for the client. I mean, I don't know how many times when I was a junior working my way up in the world, in starting at sales, the CRM, you call Bob Smith in purchasing, and you dial the number, and Susan Davidson answers the phone, and you're all prepared to talk to Smith, and that's just, it's the worst. It's such a tremendous waste of time for the salesperson to be, okay, so where's Dave now, and where did he transfer to, and blah, blah, blah. And then you got to go on LinkedIn and see where is he working now, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, to use automation, like you said, to solve all that and not waste your professional salesperson's time doing this kind of admin, research type of work is I think it's something that I think owners really need to understand, the amount of time that's wasted, and not just a waste of time, but, it kills your motivation.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a waste of time. I said it's like doing research is an important part of a seller's job. Doing the homework to show the respect towards the prospective buyer so that they don't have to tell you all about their business. You come in already with a point of view on where you can help them based on your research. What we try to do with automation is really just have a predictable way to be able to get similar information. So all that clicking and going through all the different information across Google and opening it 5 tabs to get that information. Well, I could just have a single prompt that will get all that information for me and bring it exactly into my workspace so that I can do that maybe an hour or two ahead of a call and have a point of view already ready to propose to a client in advance of that conversation, saving me, if I have 5 calls a week, that's maybe 5 hours of research time that I'm doing just for the prep for those 5 calls, which, maybe instead of an hour will take now 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I think that's just amazing. And I think the technology is there. And if I understand correctly, a lot of these newer tools, they also address like the reputation management aspect of things. For example, like, the social media, it incorporates a lot of the social media. help the listener understand, how the today's CRM system and ERP system is more than just about what's in your database. It goes out, and it's doing the Facebook thing, it's doing the LinkedIn thing, it's doing the Instagram thing, it's pulling that information, and it's allowing you to interact with your client that way too. So if your client likes to connect on Messenger, you can connect with them on Messenger. If they like to connect on LinkedIn, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. You're no longer forced to do it your way.
Yeah, that's a great point, George. So, when we think about like the way CRMs have evolved over time, it's like they've gone from just being systems of records to systems of customer intelligence, right? Where we could collect as much information we can about our clients. What do they care about? What do we know about them to be able to serve them better, right? So, when we think about that whole span from marketing, where does a first interaction happen? Oftentimes it's through a social post, or nowadays a lot of it's happening through, people are going to ChatGPT to ask for answers, the same way we used to go to Google. And you want to be able to be found in those areas, but then you want to lead them towards you and be able to interact with you wherever it requires. But if you have somebody having 6 tabs open to handle all those conversations across all those different channels, it becomes burdensome. And
stuff's going to fall through the cracks.
So if you could centralize that, obviously these more modern, CRM systems, like HubSpot, for example, allow you to be able to manage, interactions across a variety of channels in a single place, so that your customers can interact with you wherever they feel most comfortable, and you're able to serve them wherever they feel most comfortable. And then from there, you can obviously, bring them into more of like an email or wherever it may be, into video calls, but, they can engage with you at the first step, wherever it may be, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think a lot of people need to hear is the idea that your reputation online is really important. And I see a lot of professionals, and I'm guilty of it too. Like, people who know me know, people send me Slack messages, WhatsApp messages. There's a zillion different ways that people send us messages now. And having that consolidated in one place is just super important. I mean, and it's not getting any better. It's like these things are not going away.
Yeah, I like the ways you go to tech fragmentation.
Yeah,
they always say it's like the problem always comes down to there's too many tools, there's data everywhere. How do we simplify and automate? How do we just bring as much data as we can into one place? And I always say centralize the data, centralize the process and the workflows.
Yeah.
If we could do those two things, we can increase productivity. It doesn't matter what area of your business you're looking at. It's like that's usually the culprit to most problems.
Yeah. Like death by 1,000 cuts.
Death by 1,000 cuts. Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what kind of stats are there out there these days with regards to before and after, before a good ERP, CRM, MRP, whatever system, before automation and after automation, let's just say when it's implemented properly, let's not say NASA.
Yeah. Not on the implementation. Yes.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, what kind of ROI are we looking at? What kind of ROI can a small business owner expect to achieve realistically if they do it the way you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I would look at it, there's short-term benefits and there's long-term benefits. So there's the immediate benefits of, okay, what's the value of freeing up my teams to be able to do more with less? Because I think with the economy today, this is the big question that a lot of business owners are facing is, how do I do more with less, right? So when we centralize data processes, the first thing we look at is, the immediate benefits we can realize by freeing up their teams from a lot of that repetitive, redundant work that's caused by the chaos that's preventing them from growing, and then putting in place a better growth strategy using better intelligence about their clients to help free their team up and grow without having to add additional headcount. So there's the typical statistics around a typical implementation is we're looking usually between an ROI anywhere between 200 to 400%.
Wow.
Which is significant, right? Because oftentimes, people discount the benefits of an ERP when done properly, but because you're really freeing up your entire organization to take on more clients without adding more people, there's an immediate EBITDA increase when you do that, right? There's a business valuation increase because you've de-risked the entire enterprise by centralizing your processes and your data. So if you're trying to sell your business, you could go from a 3x multiple maybe to a 5 to 8x multiple on the sale price.
Yeah.
So the enterprise valuation is where like a huge gain is made, but also immediately in the immediate EBITDA profit gains based on being able to just get more revenue out of your existing workforce.
Yeah, if you're asking, I mean, even if you think of like a small mom and pop business, and they've got, maybe they don't even have a salesman. Maybe the founder owner spends half his time on the road selling and the other half of his time delivering and running the business.
Yep.
I mean, just that person alone, if they have a means to, instead of calling on 5 potential clients a day, they can do 10 or 15 simply because they're not wasting a whole bunch of time researching emails, researching phone numbers, researching who's the right person to call, what's the right pitch to use, what's the right product to offer. I mean, just that alone is huge.
Well, I'll give you a quote from one project I'm doing now, and they're maybe like a 5-10 person company, right? Distribution. And one of the things that they want to do is they're saying, we've grown a business to a specific spot, but I'm scared of taking on more clients because I'm already working almost 80 hours a week. I'm doing a bunch of work I don't want to be doing.
How many balls can I juggle?
And I can't continue this way. It's like, I love my clients, but like my home life is suffering, and I just want to be able to have more structure so that I could grow at the pace I want to be able to grow without killing myself in the process.
Or hurting my clients.
Right? Or, impacting my quality of service that I've become known for in my business, right?
Yep.
So, being able to have a system that allows him to do that takes away a lot of that, work that he would have had to do to continue the operations of the business at the quality he wanted. So now he's able to free himself up so that he can actually grow on his terms.
Yep.
And it's that peace of mind, George. Like sometimes we discount the human element of the ROI because we think just in numbers, but it's like, well, if you are able to manage your business on your terms and have structure in place so that you could take a week off and not be scared that you're going to lose a $300,000 deal, right? What does that mean for you and your family? Like more importantly,
that's huge.
That's where I get a lot of pleasure in doing what I'm doing, is being able to make an impact in the lives of these people who put everything on the line to start their companies and to create jobs, right? Because I think that's where, as a society, we get better, is if we're able to help these people, also keep growing without killing themselves in the process, right? Whether that's improving sales, whether that's improving operations, whether that's improving financial management aspects of things. It's not my expertise, but there are people I know that are experts in that, right?
It all falls into the bottom line. I mean, if you're more effective, you're more efficient, it usually all falls down to the bottom line, and like you said, being able to do more with less is the key. I mean, everything is getting more expensive. Competition is getting more fierce. It's not even regional anymore. It's international. Now you have to worry about suppliers anywhere in the world. Like, it's not just China now, it's everywhere. It's every corner of the planet now can be potentially in your backyard and taking your business. So if you're not on the offensive as far as all that's concerned, you're gonna have to work harder to hit the same number.
Of course. And I think where a lot of people often forget is like they think they're competing with the company down the street that they know, when in fact these days you're probably competing about some young guy in his garage or in his basement building something that can able to provide a similar service that you could provide at 20% of the cost because they're building it using AI or something like this, right? And, and they can have similar distribution because of the internet to go and reach your clients at scale. And that's where we have to think, okay, like the game has changed significantly. How do I adapt, what I'm doing to be able to keep up in this world without having to work like 100, 200 hour weeks to just keep up.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, listen, I love your work ethic. I love the fact that, you're using technology to help people to do more with less, empower their salespeople to sleep better at night, knowing that they're not dropping balls, that, they're doing the sufficient follow-ups. But they can free themselves up to do more of the real work, which is the one-to-one contact with the client, the real honest work of being face to face, belly to belly, and all that
Yep.
good stuff, rather than being between screens and spending a whole bunch of time doing data entry and all the rest of
With
it.
20 tabs open.
Yeah, with 20 tabs open. Boy, have I been there.
Yeah.
What's the best place for people to reach you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is a good spot to reach, or on my website. So I have my website, www.trimark-solutions.com. And you can contact there, or over typically LinkedIn's the best way to get in touch with me. Yeah,
Great. And we'll put all the links to your site in the show notes.
fantastic.
JP, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I hope that people have a more open mind, especially the smaller and mid-sized business have an open mind about this technology, and they think about contacting you to leverage it to improve their businesses and their lives.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity, George.